Hello folks, Min-Max Munchking back with a video where I will go into a little bit more detail about the one-hit wonder character build, whatever you want to call it. This is probably going to be a long video, because usually when I make these videos without scripts I kind of like just ramble on and on forever. So yeah, if you don't have time to wait, maybe save, like, share, comment, subscribe, so that you can watch it at some later point, if you feel like you don't get everything that I talked about in my first video yesterday. So, without further ado, let's kind of like jump right into it. I'm gonna skip the key features and spells because I mostly kind of talked about them in that brief overview video. I will touch upon the boon of combat prowess. I intentionally skipped it in the video yesterday. Defining characteristics, I mean, it's pretty much just been made to be a character that does one attack. Hopefully that one attack hits, and when it hits it deals 500 plus damage on average, and then the enemy is dead, right? I mean, as I said yesterday, only a few creatures in D&D, official creatures, can survive that type of damage, so most likely you're killing everything with just one shot. And also, I mean, it is possible to roll above average damage. I mean, maximum damage is, I think, 874 if you roll all of your dice with the max. So yeah, I mean, it's possible, who knows. Yeah, so basically Goblin is, as I've said, the main reason to take the Goblin is because, well, Fury of the Small, and that's the only feature that pretty much doesn't require any action to activate. And it's a plus 20 flat damage bonus, same as Aasimar, but yeah, again, no action requirement, no action economy requirements, and the limitation being that the creature has to be larger than you isn't really a problem in most cases, because your size is small anyway. And as I've said, most of the times, whatever it is that you're attacking that has that much damage where you need to dump 500 damage, that many hit points to dump 500 damage or more, well, it's most likely not small. It's most likely medium, large, huge, gargantuan, who knows. You do have decks. Let's kind of like expand all of these so that like we can see them properly. Yeah, you have your dex increase, your constitution increase. I wouldn't really change these with the changing the origin functionality in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I think these are just fine because this is a dex-based character. And yeah, Dark Vision, all of the other Goblin goodness. This is good, but you will get this via Cunning Action, a rogue feature, later. So it's kind of redundant, but if you are hell-bent on playing this character from level 1, you will have that bonus action hide right away. Point buy is kind of like a mess, but it has to be. I mean, you need 6 classes to make it work. And yeah, let's just add Sorcerer in here, because obviously that's the class that you need as well. So yeah, I mean, you need those 13s in Charisma, Wisdom, Strength. Those are minimums to multi-class into and out of those classes. So yeah, I mean, it's even a Fighter, right? I mean, Fighter needs a 13 in Strength. So yeah, I mean, basically, this is the way to do it. Ignore this 18, that's coming from equipment. I'm gonna talk about it later. But yeah, you are capped at 16 because you will need some feats, obviously, but I'm gonna talk about it later a bit. Description, background, whatever you want to call it. Now, I did choose Criminal or Urban Bounty Hunter. For some reason, the character creator in D&D Beyond is letting me choose the tool, even though it is written here that you can choose the gaming set, which, I mean, I did. I chose a dice set, pretty much. I mean, it's flavorful, so whatever you want. But it says you get Thieves' Tools, and somehow in here I can choose to be proficient in something else. I don't know what it is. This is probably some kind of bug. It's also present if you choose the Urban Bounty Hunter, which Also gives you access to 2 tools, Thieves, Musical, Gaming Set. So, yeah, I mean, I really don't know why this is. It's probably some kind of bug. If somebody knows why this is like this, I'm kind of like a D&D Beyond noob still. Let me know in the comments down below. Yeah, so that's pretty much it about the description, about the background. Let me just briefly touch upon these feats. So at level 4 of your Bard, which is way down below, you get your first feat. Now I would take Lucky over Alert, because Lucky pretty much just allows you to re-roll any attack roll, ability check, or a saving throw. You need basically both the ability checks and attack rolls. I mean, ability checks are your stealth checks, your initiative rolls, all of those are ability checks. And obviously attack roll is pretty important, because if you miss with your attack roll, it doesn't matter that you automatically crit and deal double damage with your Cleric when you missed, right? So even if you have advantage, it's sometimes possible. It kind of happens fairly often that you even miss with advantage, even against like high armor class monsters with like 20 plus AC. You can miss even with advantage. So yeah, Lucky Feat is pretty mandatory. Alert, obviously, at level 8 of your Bard. Let me just find it. So yeah, Alert, +5 bonus to initiative, pretty self-explanatory. You cannot be surprised, and the creatures don't gain advantage against you. That's fine, but the primary reason to take this feat is for the +5 bonus to initiative, right? We need initiative for the rogue to work properly. But yeah, let's talk about it a bit later again, just briefly. So let's kind of like look over the fighter a little bit first. Not really gonna spend too much time on it, because the primary reason to take fighter is for the action surge. I'm also going to repeat the sentiment that you should probably take fighter because of its proficiencies. Constitution saving throw is pretty good, because it could happen that while you're concentrating on your banishing smite, I'm gonna talk about it later, you do get damaged by something, or I don't know, something causes you to roll concentration saving throw. Well, concentration saving throw is nothing but a constitution saving throw, and it's good to have a +6 on it instead of you know, something else. So that's pretty good. That's the reason that I would pretty much start in fighter. And yeah, obviously, once again, action surge, we need all the actions that we can get. And on top of that, the fighting style, the superior technique, it is an optional fighting style. And I think it doesn't let you choose which Battle Master maneuver you take. But yeah, you pretty much take Precision Maneuver, because it adds 1d6 to your attack roll. You already have a ridiculous amount of damage, so you don't need more damage. What you need more is increasing your accuracy, and this is one of the ways to do it, on top of the Lucky Feat and all the other stuff that you get to do. Obviously, all of the other stuff that fighter gets is pretty standard, if you ask me. Nothing really too out of the ordinary. Athletics, Perception, I mean, sure, you can take something else, but I mean, you're a fighter, so these skills make sense. All of this is kind of like secondary, right? We need it for action surge. Now, Assassin Rogue, which we have 3 levels of, you do get some proficiencies, obviously, bonuses and stuff like that. Maybe I should have clicked all of this before I started recording the video, but anyway, never mind. You do get acrobatics or sleight of hand. I would probably take acrobatics, just because if you do get grappled, so that you can have an easier time escaping that grapple, but I mean, you won't really go wrong with a sleight of hand either. So whatever you want. Personally, acrobatics, but sleight of hand makes sense too. Expertise, obviously, perception or stealth, these are the 2 most important skills. Why would you ever choose anything else? Especially stealth, because you are trying to hide and set up a surprise to the enemy. Sneak attack, obviously, extra damage as you keep leveling up. 2d6 in this case. Thieves' Cant, kind of unimportant, but it's always a roleplay tool. Cunning Action is pretty good, because it allows you to use your hide with your bonus action, but again, you already have that from your Goblin, which gets it as a racial trait, so yeah. I mean, it pretty kind of like both of them are making each other redundant, but at least you know that you have all of this. One thing that Cunning Action is really kind of good, other than Hide, is if you imagine... So this is a melee character, right? You need to be in melee to deliver your damage. You cannot just shoot from 150 feet with a longbow. You can use this Cunning Action feature to dash, because what if it happens that you're like 60 feet away from your enemy, or something like 50-60, and you need to close the gap, right? Well, with Cunning Action you can, because I'm pretty sure Goblin doesn't allow you to dash. Yeah, so you only have Disengage or Hide. So it's still kind of like an upgrade. It's not like too big of an upgrade, but just in case you do need to close the gap to get in melee, you can do it. Oh my lord, everything got reset. Well, today I learned, right? Let me just click all of that once again. Sneak attack, Cunning Action, steady aim, pretty kind of like, you don't really need this. But yeah, I mean, you already have, you will already have advantage via Assassinate if you do things correctly, if you're lucky your initiative, and if you manage to hide. So steady aim probably not gonna matter to you much. However, if you do find yourself in a situation where combat is already underway and somehow you didn't have a surprise and you need to damage the enemy, it could be good. Yeah, it could be good. The main reason is obviously for the Assassinate. Bonus proficiencies are, I mean, they're okay. Maybe you can use your disguise kit to, you know, low-key position yourself in plain sight without anybody even recognizing you. I mean, it's possible, but I wouldn't really bet too much on it. So, but you know, who knows? The main reason to take a rogue is obviously to take the assassin rogue is the Assassinate feature, which kind of guarantees a critical hit. Now, nothing is guaranteed, right? You still need to surprise the enemy, to surprise your victim, and pulling off a surprise is usually harder than just, you know, I don't know, doing anything else in combat. But it's possible, and if you play your cards right, you will be able to do this semi-consistently. I mean, you do need to be somewhat disruptive, in my opinion. You need to remind your DM, yes, DM, I'm trying to actually move behind this rock, or I'm gonna close the door, just so that the enemy doesn't see me, just so that you can position yourself in advance for the Assassinate feature to work. But again, the DMs like to just throw monsters at you by surprise. So yeah, you probably won't be able to assassinate all the time, but you should be able to assassinate pretty often. There's one more way that you can pull off a surprise without using the bonus action hide action. But I'm gonna talk about it later, right? So that's it about the rogue. Now let me just briefly touch upon the cleric. I mean, you pretty much just only really need it for the path to the grave, sorry, words kinda matter, I mean, whatever. Nothing else really matters. Sure, you can spare the dying and do a little bit more healing if you want to. Yeah, you can detect undead, but you kind of get that from the Paladin anyway. I really don't want to spend too much time on it other than this is it. Like, path to the grave, we need to double the damage of our attack, which we do by cursing the creature and causing it to be vulnerable to all of the attack's damage. Now, I've got a comment on that video yesterday where somebody commented that it doesn't make the target vulnerable to all the damage types. There is no... You don't roll separate damage rolls once you hit. Once you hit, all of the dice, sneak attack, banishing smite, divine smite, damage die, absorb elements damage, psychic, all of that damage is rolled. It's considered to be single attack damage roll, right? So you don't roll the damage dice first, and then after that you roll divine smite and all of that. Sure, you can roll those separately, but all of them are considered to be one singular damage roll. And for that reason, all of that attack's damage is all of those Divine Smites, Banishing Smites, Psychic Blades, Absorb Elements, Damage Die, you know, flat damage increases from the Goblin's Fury of the Small and all of that. So you do actually end up in a situation where if you successfully pull this off and manage to get the enemy surprised, you will be able to pretty like consistently deal 450 to like 550 damage. I'm gonna say that's kind of like the average range. Anything less and more than that is possible, but it's less likely, right? I mean, I don't know the percentages of odds of like how often is it possible to roll below 450 and above 550, but yeah, it's like somewhere in that 100 range of damage. So that's pretty much it about the Cleric. I mean, you can see everything else written on the screen. By the way, yeah, if you wanna pledge into my Patreon, it is somewhere in here. Hold on. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty much here. So yeah, pretty much that's it. You don't have to, as you can see, everything is on the screen, but it is out there. And yeah, I mean, if you want, it is there. But anyway, can I public page? Yeah, okay, so there it is. Oh, by the way, yeah, this is a nice number. I like this very much. And also thank you to all of my patrons. Like, you are making all of this possible. So I'm gonna be delivering more videos in the future, don't worry about it. But anyway, so where was I? Paladin. Alright, so Paladin, it is somewhere in here. There we go. So Paladin, I mean, again, Divine Smite is really the only reason the main and only reason to go into it. Sure, dueling fighting style also kind of matters because it's a +2 damage with Path to the Grave, Cleric, Channel Divinity. It's basically a +4. It's something, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not gonna matter too much other than Divine Smite. All of these other things, spells, lay on hands, none of this really matters. But sure, you get all of these other features. I mean, once you take 6 classes, you have a bunch of features, like it or not, right? So that's it for the Paladin. Divine Sorcerer. Now, I've been stuck on the Sorcerer. First, whether to take it, and then second, which one to take. In the end, I chose Divine Soul, but yeah, let me actually hold on. Let me open up in the new window. So Divine, where was it? All right, so Wild Magic, yeah, Wild Magic. Hold on, you can probably hear my keyboard, it's very loud. So Sorcerer is going to be wide. Let me just open it so that we can kind of compare it, right? Your Wild Magic Sorcerer is okay, so it can be good. It can be good. The reason why I think it's less good than Divine Soul is because, well, Tides of Chaos are kind of chaotic. I mean, we all know that these tables could be bad, but still, I mean, at its core, you can manipulate the forces of chance and chaos to gain advantage on the attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. So attack roll, you already should have advantage, so that's kind of like less important. However, you can have advantage on the ability check, and initiative roll is the dexterity ability check. So this is strictly better than Divine Soul Sorcerer, because Divine Soul Sorcerer doesn't really have this. It has this Favored by the Gods, which, I mean, it can help you on a failed saving throw or a miss on attack roll. You can add a 2d4, but it doesn't help your initiative. The reason why I chose to further buff the accuracy with the plus 2d4 instead of the Tide Sorcerer, of the Wild Magic Sorcerer improving your initiative by giving it guaranteed advantage, is because I think initiative is already pumped enough via your alert feat and your Jack of all trades from the Bard, which is a +8 right there and there. And then you can even maybe get some items if the DM is generous, so you can have advantage that way. But there's nothing really that's gonna improve your accuracy with a plus 2d4 other than maybe a bless spell, but then you need an ally to cast it on you because it's a concentration and we need to be concentrating on something else, right? So that's pretty much the reason why I chose Divine Soul in the end. None of these other things really matter too much. Sure, you can kind of like gain extra spells and all of that, but yeah, I mean, Favored by the Gods is pretty much the reason to take this class. The other reason is obviously spellcasting, because you can learn sorcerer spells, and one of those spells is Absorb Elements, and that spell is actually... that spell deals on its own if the DM lets you kind of like bend the rules a little bit. I'm not even gonna... I don't think it's even breaking the rules. It's just kind of like bending the rules a little bit in your favor. Which is, by definition, I don't know, rules lawyery on munchkinery, but honestly it's not, for the lack of the better words, the worst thing that I've done on this channel. So I don't think it's even like that much of an issue, but I'm gonna talk about it later a little bit more. Safe to say, Absorb Elements from the Sorcerer, you can get a plus, almost a plus 100 damage on average, plus 100 damage on average just from this spell alone, combined with all the other features and stuff like that, right? So yeah, let's now dissect the Bard, which has the most levels compared to any other class. Let me kind of like close these other ones, kind of like don't need them anymore. I'll probably need them later, but whatever. So yeah, Bardic Inspiration right away. You don't need it directly, but you will need it for your other thing, which is, I don't know why I didn't make this at least slightly, you know, noted. But anyway, yeah, so Bardic Inspiration, you need this for your Psychic Blades, right? Because your Psychic Blades, once you manage to get your Bard to level 5, is 3d6 extra damage. Once you get it to level 10, it's 5d6 extra damage. So with a critical hit, this is like, what, 10d6 and then doubled with the Grave Cleric Channel Divinity. It is basically around 70 extra damage on average, just from the Psychic Blades, right? So that's actually a lot of damage. And I don't think... So somebody in the comments on that video yesterday said, why not Hexblade Warlock for the Eldritch Smite and Hexblade's Curse? Well, for one, Hexblade's Curse requires bonus action. And I think that bonus action is better left to be used for dash or even hide. And then second, you still deal marginally more damage with Psychic Blades combined with the 7th level Absorb Elements than you would be able to deal with Eldritch Smite level 5 and level 3 Absorb Elements. It's not a lot more damage, but it is more damage on paper. So overall, I think Whisper's Bard 10 is better than 9 or 10 levels in Hexblade Warlock, especially because you kind of like, you're already bound by dexterity, so you would only be taking Warlock for Eldritch Smite anyway, if we assume that Hexblade's Curse, the bonus action required for Hexblade's Curse is reserved for hide or dash actions. So yeah, I mean, ultimately I chose the Whisper's Bard, more damage and more flexibility with your action economy. You do get 2 ability score improvements, which you obviously get for feats. Unfortunately, you cannot max out your dexterity with only 2 ability score improvements, but it probably will not matter. Let me also point out Jack of all trades. I already mentioned it, but let me just mention it once again. Half of your proficiency bonus rounded down. It eventually becomes 6, your proficiency bonus. And you get to add that to any ability check you make that doesn't already include your proficiency bonus. Again, initiative is an ability check, a dexterity ability check, which doesn't already include your proficiency bonus. So you just get to add half of your proficiency bonus on top. So your alert plus this is plus 8. If you can get advantage in some way. And lucky feat obviously on top to just solidify your chances of rolling well on your initiative roll, right? So that's pretty much it for the Bard. I mean, I don't really feel the need to go over each and one of these features because for the most part, well, I mean, okay, let's not forget about magical secrets, right? Because Banishing Smite, that is a pretty clutch spell. I mean, I also forgot to mention it. It got lost somewhere in the script and editing process while I was editing the video, but yeah, so 5d10 force damage stock is basically 10d10 damage. Basically, alright, so Booming Blade, you get that, I don't know, this is wrong. So Banishing Smite, to maximize that, amounts to more than, I don't even know how much, but, yeah, this is probably like a leftover from when this file didn't have the Sorcerer, one level of Sorcerer. You can grab Booming Blade from the Sorcerer, yeah. So let me just quickly calculate that on the fly, times 5.5, that's the median value, that's 55 times 2, yeah, that's 110 damage, that's still a lot, So yeah, magical secrets are pretty clutch. Also, I will definitely upload this file later on Patreon, so that you have most up-to-date versions, all of you Patreons, future and current ones and whatever. So yeah, Banishing Smite, pretty clutch. Find Greater Steed, I think, you do need... this is probably the best option because you can get, I don't know, a Saber-Toothed Tiger, which can give you additional movement speed because Saber-Toothed Tiger acts on your initiative. And then you can use its movement and then stack it on top of your movement to move, I don't know, like 100 feet or something, or maybe even more, to close the gap where, you know, where you are trying to avoid special senses of the enemies. A lot of targets, a lot of high challenge rating monsters have blind sense, tremor sense, whatever, those special senses that can detect you even if you take the hide action and roll well on stealth. So something like this, maybe even a flying creature like a Griffin or Pegasus or Periton, whatever, it could be a good addition to your like stack. It's not like super big upgrade, it's situational, and there is a way to completely avoid relying on rolling stealth checks and using hide actions, but this is just another tool at your belt, and I think it's probably a better thing than most other things that you can take, right? So that's it pretty much for the Bard. All the other things not really that important. You can read them on the screen anyway. You can pause the video and just read it if you're interested. If you are interested in gathering my thoughts. Let me just briefly right now talk about the items. I intentionally skipped them in the video yesterday because I promised in the thumbnail that you need 0 items, and I do think that you don't really need the items, but one thing that could use some improvement is your accuracy and initiative. You can never really have enough bonuses to your attack rolls and initiative rolls. So for that reason, I kind of like shortlisted some items, and yeah, let me just go briefly over each and every one of them. Rapier +3, I mean, it's pretty much self-explanatory. +3 bonus to attack and damage rolls is pretty good. Damage is not that important, but +3 is basically a 15% improvement to your accuracy, which is good. I mean, even if you cannot get a +3, +2 or even a +1 is better than nothing. So, whatever you get is good. Manual of Quickness of Action. Now, this is an item that I already pre-applied to this character, which is why you see 18 instead of 16, and that's this miscellaneous bonus over here. I cannot remove it from this character anymore for some reason, or at least I don't know how to. But basically, this item allows you to just bump up your dexterity score by +1, which basically is the same thing as having a +1 weapon or whatever, right? So if you can get this, it is a very rare item. I mean, if you can get 5 of these to maximize your dexterity score all the way up to 30, that would be amazing. Or whatever, right? But yeah, however many you can get of these, it is it is good because you need dexterity for initiative, attack rolls, damage, even armor class. I mean, you know, everything pretty much. Other thing that can also improve your initiative is obviously Sentinel Shield, because while on one hand it does kind of like make your action economy a bit more clunkier because you need to hold the shield and it requires an action to don it and doff it, so you're pretty much kind of like stuck with it. On the other hand, it gives you advantage on initiative rolls, and I mean, we do need initiative, and just having advantage on top of the lucky feat, on top of the alert feat, on top of the jack of all trades, it's better than not having it, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. Ion Stone of Agility, I mean, it improves your dexterity score, so it's pretty much the same or similar as Manual of Quickness and Action. It is very rare again, but and it can also, I think it can be destroyed because it says it has 10 hit points and resistance to all damage. I don't really know, I never really had this item, so if somebody knows, let me know in the comments down below. Is this item destructible permanently? Because if somebody deals 20 damage to it, is it destroyed? I mean, it pretty much seems like it is, right? But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Now, Sword of Khass. Now, it is a longsword, so you can't really use this item, and it's also an artifact, so good luck getting it. But if you can get it, just having it on your person is still good, because somewhere in here it says it adds a while the sword is on your person. See, you don't even have to be wielding this sword. You just need to be having it on your person. You get to add a plus D10 to your initiative, which again, we need initiative, right? Stone of Good Luck, again, similar as all these other items, just buffing up your initiative and even stealth checks if you need them to. And finally, Gambler's Blade Rapier. Now, I don't have it in here, I just didn't add it. But basically, this is a rare weapon that it can be a +3 bonus. Actually, hold on, let me try and find it real quick. Give me just a second. So it's somewhere in here. Equipment, Gambler. Is it even an official? Nope, it is not an official item. I think it's pretty much the official item. Hold on. Did I screw up this? I could have screwed it up, and you are going to be the first to figure out that I did. Alright, so Gambler Blade Rape. It is the Lost Laboratory of Qualish item. So it's one of those adventure modules or like small expansion modules. I think Lost Laboratory of Qualish has some extra spells and items. So it's one of those items. Okay, sure, you might... the DM might not even allow items from Lost Laboratory of Qualish. But if he does... this is a cursed weapon. But the curse is only really bad because you cannot unattune from this item. So once you attune to it, you're cursed, and that's pretty much it. There's really no downside other than you having a penalty to your death saving throws. So let's say you take a +3 to your as a bonus. That means you have a -3 to your death saving throws. Now, okay, that could be bad if you get dropped to 0 hit points. But that's why it's called Gambler's Blade Rapier, right? I mean, you're gambling your accuracy in exchange for a penalty to your death saving throws. I don't know, I think it would be fun to... I think it would actually be fun to have something like this. But yeah, I mean, whatever. Choose your own poison, right? Spells, I'm just gonna talk about these ones that are kind of more important. I don't want to spend 30 minutes talking about all of these spells. All of the ones that don't have any text attached to them, you can choose other ones. This is just something that I would do on my own, right? So, Guidance, it's a Cleric cantrip. There is a limited opportunity to maybe increase your initiative or stealth with this cantrip. However, it requires a verbal component, so if you're sneaking somewhere close to your enemy, chances are that casting this spell is gonna reveal your position anyway. So that's why I said there's a very limited opportunity to increase your ability checks via this thing. It's also a concentration spell, so you cannot really have it active while you're concentrating on banishing smite and things like that. Booming Blade, I mean, obviously this is a sorcerer spell, and if you didn't have the sorcerer, you can still have it with the magical secrets from a 10th level bard, but I think it's better to grab it with the sorcerer. Obviously, I mean, you get an option to take some cantrips, so why would you not take it with the sorcerer? and leave the magical secrets of the bard for something else. It is a decent chunk of extra damage. I don't know how much it is on average, so 6 times 4.5 is 27, and times 2, that's basically 54 extra damage. That's a chunky bit of extra damage, right? So yeah, I mean, 54, that's not something to just miss, right? Green Flame Blade, kind of similar, but fire damage is often more resistant to resisted type of damage than thunder damage. Thunder damage is pretty much one of the least resisted damage types in a game, so you are more likely to deal full damage instead of just half damage if you use Booming Blade. All of these other ones, absorb elements, obviously, we already talked about it, right? So, combining all of these classes together, 1 level of Sorcerer, 2 levels of Paladin, 2 levels of Cleric, and 10 levels of Bard is gonna end you up at what, like 10, plus 2 is 12, plus 2, plus, well, Paladin is a half caster, so that's 13. You're a 14th level multiclass spellcaster. That gives you 7th level spell slots, which means that you can cast Absorb Elements with a 7th level spell slot, right? And that's just a crap ton of extra damage. On its own, it deals 7d6, but since it's a crit, it's actually a 14d6, and then you double it with Path to the Grave, Cleric, Channel Divinity, which is, again, I kind of don't even know, but let me just check. So, again, it's almost 100 damage. So, and it is very possible to deal 100 damage with this, with the average being this close to actually 100. So yeah, you definitely need it. Now shield, I mean, sure, why would you take anything else other than this? But it is hard to believe that this is actually a spell that for the first time in one of these word files, I don't actually make it fully red or even bolded in bolded font, because it's just, if you get in a position that you're using this spell, you probably screwed something up royally, right? I mean, if you're in a type of fight where you are actually legitimately fearing for the amount of hit points that you have left over, you probably didn't okay, so I'm not gonna say there are some situations where the DM just drops like 30 million Tarasques on you and you just die, but in most cases you probably did something wrong, you didn't deal your maximum damage or something, and now the enemy didn't survive the first round of combat and is actually dealing damage to you. Well, you know, that's why I said you probably screwed something up. That said, don't get me wrong, I would be the first one to screw something up. I'm not somebody that makes no mistakes ever. I make mistakes all the time when I play these characters, and don't be too hard on yourself. Just be aware that next time, be more careful, mindful, observant, alert, and set yourself up before the combat so that you have the best chances of winning, taking the least amount of damage, wasting the least amount of your resources, and all of that stuff, right? Skywrite is kind of like a fun spell. I mentioned it in the video yesterday, before I figure out. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of useless. It's just like a meme spell. But if you can doodle some dicks in the sky, if the DM lets you, instead of placing some words, just like place some U's and O's and make a dick in the sky. I don't know. Like, I don't know why I'm so obsessed with dicks, but whatever. Leomun's Tiny Hut, obviously that's a good spell too to have. There is a chance to maybe set up a surprise from it, but it's kind of hard to hide this thing. The dome is opaque, and it is pretty much just like a single color. Now maybe you can apply some kind of like a camo pattern, like some military camo pattern, or like a colorful, I don't know. Like I think this spell has been made that you just kind of like choose, yes, I want my dome to be green, blue, black, white, or whatever, right? There's just like a single color, monochromatic. But if your DM allows like polychromatic Leomund Tiny Huts, well, go for it, right? I mean, it's gonna be even easier to just hide it, you know, blend it in the environment, and then like your victim is going past it and you just surprise it from the Leomundstein. Yeah, it is possible in theory, right? The biggest spell, the most important spell from the Bard's list is, I think, Dimension Door, because imagine this, right? Your victim has 120 feet of Tremor Sense, Blind Sense, or whatever. There's like no way for you to hide somewhere close enough for that victim not to detect you while you're still being able to get into melee range during the first surprise round of combat to deliver your maximum damage. So what do you do in that situation? Where you just use Dimension Door, right? You set yourself up in a way that you scout ahead, or one of your allies scouts ahead. You kind of like know what the situation is, you know where the enemy is, and you just kind of like position yourself 3 to 500 feet away, and you just teleport, right? You instead of hiding and whatever, you just teleport right next to your enemy, or like pretty close to it. So I would, okay, so the DM can say there's no surprise, but logically speaking and kind of like commonsensically, that should be a surprise. And it even states somewhere in the rules that surprise doesn't necessarily have to be just tied to the hide action to rolling the stealth ability check. So I would pretty much do it this way and set up and trigger the combat via Dimension Door just to be absolutely safe. If your DM objects, well, too bad. I would let it fly personally, because you still need to scout, you still know to have some information ahead to know where exactly you are trying to teleport. And this is not an easy thing to do. This is probably even harder to do than just sneaking around and you're stealthing, hiding behind rocks and doors and walls and whatever, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, let me just mention one thing before we kind of like leave this spell section. Once again, there should be, okay, did I actually delete? Yeah, I did. Well, whatever. I probably removed it at some point. Somewhere on the page 190 on the PHB, there's like a table. Hold on, let me try and find it real quick. Since this video is already 40 minutes long, I don't care anymore. You're gonna wait one more minute anyway. So let me try and remember where it is. It's definitely in Player's Handbook, obviously. I think it's here. Yeah, okay, so I found it. There we go. So this table says, here are a few examples of the sorts of things you can do in tandem with your movement and action. So this is pretty much just kind of like giving you examples of what we colloquially call free actions or object interactions, right? Which they don't require either your bonus action or your action or whatever, right? So one of those things is drinking all the ale in a flagon, right? So the DMs might start kind of like objecting to you using your free object interaction or free action or whatever you want to call it to drink the acid or whatever. If push comes to shove, I mean, you can put that acid in like a bottle or a flagon. You can literally put it in a flagon and then say, well, instead of drinking beer or ale or whatever, I'm gonna drink this acid. I mean, that's as rules as written as possible. If the DM still objects, I mean, okay, I mean, I wouldn't argue with a DM. I mean, if the DM just doesn't want to let you do this because of the balance reasons, even though, I mean, you still deal 420 damage on average, even without this. That's still way, way too much damage for pretty much any monster, any official monster in the 5th edition, right? There's only like a couple monsters that have more than 420 damage. Also, yeah, 420 average damage, that's kind of like, that's nice. That's nice. But yeah, anyway, enough with the meme numbers. If the DM doesn't let you do it, but I mean, you don't even have to drink the acid, you can just kind of like, I don't know, poke, you can literally dip your pinky toe, or like, put your hand in it, or I don't know, freaking smell it or something. There's like acids that burn your nostrils. So there are ways to do this instead of just drinking it. Whatever you decide, come up to an agreement with your DM before the session. Don't don't surprise your DM with this like, oh, well, this rule says this and that rule says that, therefore I'm right and you're wrong. No, actually have a conversation with your DM and ask your DM, what do you think about drinking acid or dipping my pinky into the acid so that I can cast Absorb Elements in the first round of fight, right? I mean, if the DM doesn't agree to it, he doesn't agree, but at least have that argument, have that discussion before the session actually starts. Again, this is one of those things that you discuss at session 0, but since I kind of assume most of you are going to be playing this character like level 21 shots, it's probably prudent and wise to have this discussion beforehand. Not going to talk about it anymore, I think that's pretty much kind of like self-explanatory. Now, Boon of Combat Prowess, it's somewhere in the Dungeon Master's Guide, I forgot to open it. Hold on, let me just waste one more minute of your time, or you can like, I don't know, scroll forward while I try to find this while recording this video. So it is somewhere in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Let me try and find it real quick. If I don't manage to find it, well, too bad. Basically, what this does is it turns one of your missed attack rolls into a hit. So if you miss, you hit once a day or once per short rest. Doesn't really matter. It's a simple thing, but oh yeah, there we go. Epic boons. I found it. So it's somewhere in here. Boon of Combat Prowess, according to, it should be some, nope, it's actually not. It should be at the top, right? Combat is, yeah, there we go, it's the first one. So when you miss with a melee weapon attack, you can choose to hit instead. It just, basically you don't even have to roll if you don't want to. And once you use this boon, oh, it's actually a short rest thing, so you can use it multiple times a day. If the DM can give you, okay, so here's the thing, going back to the Absorb Elements, DM objecting to you, you know, bending the rules in this way so that you can have 100 extra damage on top of whatever else you're dealing. I would actually be willing to trade Absorb Elements, this kind of like munchkinery with it, for Boon of the Combat Prowess. Why? Because, well, it guarantees that you hit, right? I mean, I'm fine with having 100 less damage total in exchange for having a 100% guarantee that I'm gonna hit. I'm actually fine with that. I don't know about you, but I would probably be willing to trade, or at least consider trading one for another. If the DM is just gonna, like, put you, you know, like, put you in an ultimatum situation where he says, or she says, or whatever, well, you can either have this, you know, Absorb Elements, munchkinery, or you can have Boon of Combat Prowess. If the DM tells you that, my sentiment is go for the Boon of Combat Prowess, right? That's just it. Progression-wise, I mean, it's on the screen. I already talked about it in the video before, yesterday, so not gonna spend too much time on it. Let me quickly kind of like go over the combat setup. I mean, there's really only two scenarios. I kind of already covered them. One of them is instead of risking getting exposed and discovered and detected with stealth, hide actions, and monsters having special senses, you do the Dimension Door maneuver, and then proceed to you know, you already have the you have already pre-casted Banishing Smite because it lasts a minute, and that should be enough for you to kind of like 1 minute is 10 rounds of combat. So that should give you enough cushion to, you know, do whatever you need to do to get in melee to the enemy. And, you know, like, do whatever you have to do, and then on your first and last turn, just dump all the damage that you have, like all the 500 and whatever, 518 average damage that you have. And that's pretty much kind of it. There's like an image, so shout out to the artist that made this thing. It's pretty sick. It's not really what I kind of see, but the face is amazing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There is a link here there's a way to deal even more single attack damage, but it relies on the natural 20 roll or natural 19, so it's pretty much dumb luck. And one of my parameters was that I need a way to kind of like guarantee a crit. right? I cannot just rely on a d20 to roll 19 or 20. So, yeah, I mean, I might even link this in the description down below. If I forget, let me know in the comments. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you would like to support my efforts on this channel and Patreon, you can download this file. If you pledge into the Magical Secrets tier on Patreon, it's gonna be linked down below. And thank you for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button, you know the YouTube drill, and pretty much that's it. More videos very, very soon. I have a couple new characters. And with that said, MinMax Munchkin out, and talk to you soon.